the wide summit of the triple stairs. Bare steps climbed up like glowing rocks of gold, burning their way to pure absolute sky.
Good morning. So we're reading in Book 2, Canto 11, The Kingdoms and Godheads of the Greater Mind. And we've come to the bottom of page 271, the very last line. So we are following King Aswapati's journey through the inner planes of existence, the subtle worlds. And he's been traveling long already from the worlds of subtle matter through the worlds of the vital, through the worlds of the little mind, or the human level of mind. And now he's traveling through the kingdoms of the greater mind, the higher spiritual mind. And we've seen that he's encountered 3 different levels in this greater mind. The first was kind of a spiritual thought. And then a realm of spiritual vision, and he's just begun the third step to a kind of a vision of things at the summits overlooking all that is in time and space. I'll just read a little from page 268, which describes that second realm, the beginning of that. He says, above stood ranked a subtle archangel race, with larger lids that looked, and looks that searched the unseen. A light of liberating knowledge shone across the gulfs of silence in their eyes. They lived in the mind and knew truth from within. A sight withdrawn in the concentrated heart could pierce behind the screen of time's results and the rigid cast and shape of visible things. All that escaped conception's narrow noose, vision descried and gripped. Their seeing thoughts filled in the blanks left by the seeking sense. And then in the third realm, on page 271, where we've just started, at the paragraph break there, it says, in a sublimer and more daring soar to the wide summit of the triple stairs, bare steps climbed up like flaming rocks of gold, burning their way to a pure, absolute sky. August and few the sovereign kings of thought have made of space their wide, all-seeing gaze, surveying the enormous work of time, a breadth of all-containing consciousness, supported being in a still embrace. So now we can continue at the bottom of the page on the last line. And let's see, I guess Anandi, you could. The very last line on page 271.
Fixed beyond our ken, the whole kingdom sits. A single and infallible look comes down. A silent touch from the supernal air awakes to ignorant knowledge in its act. A secret power in the inconscient depths, compelling the blinded Godheads to emerge. Determining necessity's new dance as she passes through the circuit of the hours and vanishes from the chase of finite eye, down circling vistas of ionic time. The untraceable forces of the cosmic will bear in the back and limbs the fixity of an original foresight that is fate. Even natural ignorance is truth's instrument. Our struggling ego cannot change her code. Yet, is it the conscious power that moves in us? The seed idea is parent of our acts, and destiny, the unrecognized child of will.
Thank you. So we'll just pause there for a minute. Which verse we're on? So we started at page 271 at the very bottom, the bottom line, and now we're halfway down on 272. The last line we read was, and destiny, the unrecognized child of will.
So what was it, 460?
No. Oh, line? Well, maybe. Okay. So we'll just pause for a minute. You can kind of look over the passage again. So Sri Aurobindo is describing here that from these heights of consciousness, these gods, beings are there who oversee all of time and its unfolding, and they direct this unfolding. Okay, so he says, on peaks beyond our ken, beyond our limitations, our vision, the all wisdom sits. And from there, a single and infallible look comes down, a silent touch from the supernal's air, and that awakes to ignorant knowledge in its acts the secret power in the inconscient depths. So that look comes down and it awakens something in the inconscient, in matter, to evolve, to grow, compelling the blinded Godhead to emerge, determining necessity's new dance as she passes through the circuit of the hours and vanishes from the chase of finite eyes down the circling vistas of eonic time. So due to this look from above, from this all wisdom, it awakens this force in nature which gradually over the eons, over all of time, gradually unfolds. The unseizable forces of the cosmic whirl bear in their buoyant limbs the fixity of an original foresight that is fate. So that all wisdom has that foresight of what is to emerge out of the inconscient, out of matter. And then even nature's ignorance is truth's instrument. So even in the course of this evolution, our ignorant minds move, err, make mistakes, deviate, go this way and that. But even that is part of truth's instrument. Our struggling ego cannot change her course. Yet is it a conscious power that moves in us? A seed idea is parent of our acts. So they hold that seed idea that slowly emerges in the course of evolution. And destiny, the unrecognized child of will. So our destiny is ultimately the child of their will, of these overseeing Godheads, or this overseeing God.
We see this interesting insight into determination, free will, and faith.
Yeah.
It seems that is true. But our deviations are already foreseen.
Yeah.
So it's already, but then that would mean, everything is there's a certain fixity, and then there's the Bhavan to play with that is difficult for the mind, I think, to accept.
The Bach and Lim suggest, in a way, maybe the purpose or something, that enjoyment, that delight of the unfolding over time.
But for the individual,
for us,
where is the choice then? Because it's all then.
It's all foreseen. But it's the will of the divine.
Exactly. That's the will that we end up with.
Yeah.
The child of that will.
Yeah. Yeah, there's another aspect to that. There's a practical reality to our choice, to our will, in that we need to make decisions in our life. Those decisions have consequences. It is foreseen on another level, at this level, but at our level it's not foreseen. It's being played out. It's being worked out in time. And through a play of many different forces opposing us, forces that we may have. It's all foreseen above, but it's being played out here at our level.
But from our mental perspective, the reality is totally different for us as opposed to what really is.
Yes.
That's why these all this fun physics is great, because they put it all into energy that is a unified field. So that seems to solve some of these spiritual or philosophical questions.
But also say in the beginning that there is secret spiritual belief that divine intervention comes around. If it works out with nature's will, our will, the divine will is the will to nature is ignorant, but until we are ignorant. And once you become conscious of the soul and the spirit, and what it means. There's always an effort and a story and a tradition that goes something faster that everything is foreseen and then we just see
But ultimately, our will is something that we can also align with the divine will. And so when it becomes aligned, then it also becomes effective. And
And that is the freedom. Freedom is to align with the soul. And then you're aligned with the divine will. There's no question of choice anymore.
become a slave of God.
Which is live.
Shohini, would you like to continue?
And destiny, the unrecognized child of will. Infallibly, by truth's directing gaze, all creatures hear their secret self disclose, forced to become what in themselves they hide. For he who is, grows manifest in the years, and the slow Godhead, shut within the self, climbs from the plasm to immortality, but hidden, but denied to mortal grasp. Mystic, ineffable, is the Spirit's truth, unspoken, caught only by the Spirit's eye. When naked of ego and mind, it hears the voice. It looks through light to ever greater light and sees eternity inspiring life. This greater truth is foreign to our thoughts. Where a free wisdom works, they seek for a rule, or we only see a tripping game of chance, or a labor in chains forced by bound nature's law, an absolutism of dumb, unthinking power.
Thank you. That line just above where we started, a seed idea is parent of our acts. So that seed idea is a little bit played out here. This destiny unfolding is like this seed that's sprouting. And within that seed is held the divine, the Godhead. For he who is grows manifest in the years. So that divine presence within is in that seed idea, which we slowly manifest over time, and climbs from the plasm to immortality through all the phases of the evolution, from the sprouting of life and matter all the way up through the plants and the animals and human beings to the spiritual beings that manifest here on earth.
Message in this one is how long this protocol is,
Mm.
and not just fix the goal and then it's finished.
Right.
No, it's a very long process.
Yeah, he seems to largely subscribe to that scientific view of this process of evolution occurring over maybe billions of years, slowly, but becoming more and more rapid also as the further along it gets. And then he speaks of this difference of our vision, our understanding of this process, and what that greater wisdom is. So he says, mystic, ineffable, unspeakable is the Spirit's truth. Unspoken, caught only by the Spirit's eye. When naked of ego and mind, it hears the voice. It looks through light to ever greater light through these realms of this spiritual mind consciousness and sees eternity in sphering life. This greater truth is foreign to our thoughts. Where a free wisdom works, they, that is our thoughts, seek for a rule. Or we only see a tripping game of chance, or a labor in chains forced by bound nature's law, and absolutism of dumb, unthinking power. So it seems as it's just the force of nature working, an unconscious nature. That's how it appears to us. So B, would you continue?
Audacious in their sense of God-born strength, these dare to grasp with their thought truths absolute. By an abstract purity of godless sight, by a percept nude, intolerant of forms, they brought to mind what mind could never reach, and hoped to conquer truth's supernal base, a stripped imperative of conceptual phrase, architectonic and inevitable, translated the unthinkable into thought, a silver-winged fire of naked, subtle sense, an ear of mind withdrawn from the outward rhymes, discovered the seed sounds of the eternal word, the rhythm and music heard that built the world and seized in things the bodiless will to be. The illimitable they measured with numbers, rods, and traced the last formula of limited things. In transparent systems bodied termless truth. The timeless made accountable to time and valued the incommensurable supreme.
Thank you. So here he's describing these Godheads of this realm of the spiritual mind, these kings of thought, as he describes them. So this is a level of consciousness which also we can access, we can enter into that, but at the same time it's a world in itself of these Godheads, of these beings that live there and are co-creators of this world in which we live. Co-creators, instruments of the Supreme. But at the same time, they are capturing the infinitude of the divine and translating that into forms here on earth. So they're creating, in a sense. They're putting into form the formless infinite. And when we kind of look at it from our end, perhaps entering into that realm, they were able to discover the knowledge, the formulas of creation and of an understanding of the creation. So in the creative side, they translated the unthinkable into thought. And then he mentions this discovering the seed sounds of the eternal word. So we talk about mantra and the ultimate word of Om being creative of this universe. And these seed sounds are the seed sounds of the mantras, the small elements of sound in each syllable. So they discovered their significances. Actually, Sri Aurobindo also discovered those and wrote about them.
In Sanskrit, is very known. And if you are in the Sanskrit courses, it is I-E-A and U. Very interesting. Other sounds are combined
Combined with these. Right. And then the rhythm and music heard that built the worlds. So it's almost as if some of the cadences of these mantras were perhaps also creative and utilized in the creation. And numbers also seem to be significant and utilized in the creation, which is why we can find these numbers symbolic of and having great power and things like that. So they traced all of these symbols that are also instrumental in the creation, traced the last formula of limited things in transparent systems, bodied termless truths, the timeless made accountable to time and valued the incommensurable supreme. Incommensurable supreme. So it's the incomparable, immeasurable. But they fix everything. They put a form on everything. Because that's their role as co-creators. So, Missy, would you like to read?
To park and hedge the ungrasped infinitudes, they erected absolute walls of thought and speech, and made a vacuum to hold the one. In their sight, they drove towards an empty peak, a mighty space of cold and sunlit air. to unify their task, excluding life, which cannot bear the nakedness of the vast. They made a cipher of a multitude. In negation found the meaning of the all, and in nothingness the absolute positive. A single law, simplisted the cosmic theme, compressing nature into a formula. Their Titan labor made all knowledge one, a mental algebra of the spirit's ways, an abstract of the living divinity. Here the mind's wisdom stopped. It felt complete, for nothing more was left to think or know. In a spiritual zero it sat throned, and took its vast silence for the ineffable.
Thank you. We'll pause there. So here we get a sense of the limitation of even this high spiritual mind, that it's erecting barriers, it's erecting walls and limits in order to put into form the formless infinite. So they erected absolute walls of thought and speech and made a vacuum to hold the one. Vacuum is a emptiness. And so that is what is often seen as the spiritual goal, to enter into that emptiness and finally cease from all movement, all being in nirvana, a nothingness. But he's suggesting that that is a kind of a mistranslation, or it's not a complete translation of the all, the meaning of the all, as being an emptiness, a nothingness. So a single law, simplest the cosmic theme. Simplest is made simple, compressing nature into a formula. Their Titan labor made all knowledge one, a mental algebra of the Spirit's ways, an abstract of the living divinity. So he's suggesting that the divine cannot really be contained within these formulas, that it's living, it's moving, it's changing, it's a living being. So here mind's wisdom stopped. It felt complete. For nothing more was left to think or know. In a spiritual zero, it sat throned and took its vast silence for the ineffable. So this is that negative path of spirituality which has been prominent in the Indian tradition. Mostly Buddhism. But the Vedantic also, they don't say nothingness, but all the movement they exclude.
Yeah, but they also liberate that the different nirvana. The nirvana would be one heaven, one of the higher worlds.
But I think they don't usually posit that as the absolute. They posit that as perception. And then beyond that is the reality. So that's only a step in the Buddhist. And there's many people, they all go beyond it. But this is the practice. You take the next step because you have to let go of the form and move to the formula.
Dhanalakshmi? Oh, so. Yeah, there are also many interpretations and of the Buddha's teachings or of the Vedantic teachings. So it becomes uncertain in many different schools and views of it.
There's always like the Taoist thing. All of those things, I think, point to something more.
Yeah. Dhanalakshmi, would you like to?
This was the play of the bright gods of thought, attracting into time the timeless light, imprisoning eternity in the hours. This they have planned to snare the feet of truth in an aureate net of concept and of praise, and keep her captive for the thinker's joy in his little world built of immortal dreams. There must she dwell mute in the human mind, an empress prisoner in her subject's house, adored and pure and still on his heart's throne, his splendid property cherished and apart in the wall of silence of his secret muse, immaculate in white virginity, the same forever and forever one. His worshipped changeless goddess through all time.
Thank you. Well, these Godheads, in their creativity, putting into form the divine, limiting it, shut it in to their formulas into their limited experiences of the divine. So they planned to snare the feet of truth in an aureate net of concept and of phrase. So we have our spiritual philosophies that attempt to snare the nature of the divine, and we can sit here and talk about it in terms of, words and meanings. Yeah. In his little world built of immortal dreams. So even these great spiritual experiences, I think, are limited, he's suggesting. His splendid property cherished and apart, in the wall of silence of his secret muse, immaculate in white virginity, the same forever and forever one, his worshipped changeless goddess through all time. So he keeps referring to he and her. So this is in a way nature, or the divine Shakti, or the mother, and the soul, or the divine within the manifestation, living within nature. So he attracts this higher form of nature, of the divine mother who is creative of everything, attracts her into his formulas so that the soul, so that we can kind of harness her, understand her, conceptualize her, master her, use her forces. And somehow she accepts to come into these limitations for his enjoyment, for the soul's enjoyment. Sudanya?
Or else a faithful consort of his mind, ascending to his natures and his will. She sanctions and inspired his words and acts, prolonging their resonance through the listening ears. Companion and recorder of his march, crossing a brilliant track of thoughts and life. Thought out of the eternity of time, a witness of his high triumph and stir, or Godhead servitors to a crowned idea. He shall dominate by her a frustrated world, the warrant of his deeds and his beliefs. She attests his rights divine to lead and rule, or as a lover claps his once beloved, Godhead of his life's worships and desire, icon of his heart's soul's idolatry. She now is his and must live for him alone. She has invaded him with her sudden bliss and exhaustless marvel in his happy grasp, an allurement, a caught ravishing miracle.
Thank you. So this is the play of the soul and nature, Krishna and Radha, Shiva and Shakti, the two poles of existence, the divine inhabitant and nature, the habitation, the world, the creation. She lends all her forces, all her forms, all her wisdom to him, that he may enjoy, that he may possess her. He shall dominate by her a prostrate world. All his energies, his force, all come from her. She is the energy. She is the force. Mm. 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 Nature in the lower nature to our vision seems mechanical. There, Sri Aurobindo refers to it as prakriti. But actually, Shakti, the conscious nature, informs that mechanical nature and drives it.
But this one, human perception, what they see, that if it's with the Shakti who's doing the things, or is it for everything? It's the consciousness of the human being.
Right. So she gives all of her forces to the soul to utilize, to master.
For me, that's also a question, what is Isha, what we name? Is this human being, thinking?
Well, I'm suggesting the soul. But it could be the human soul. I mean, the soul that is slowly evolving over the whole course of the evolution at this stage, but we have this soul, but it's an eternal being. It's an eternal entity within us. That's him. She now is his and must live for him alone. She has invaded him with her sudden bliss, an exhaustless marvel in his happy grasp and allurement, a caught, ravishing miracle. This is the miracle of our existence, these two poles. Right. Right. So, Debashish, would you like to continue?
For now he claims, after long rapt pursuit, the one joy of his body and his soul, inescapable in a divine appeal, her immense possession and undying thrill, an intoxication and an ecstasy, the passion of her self-revealing moods, a heavenly glory and variety, makes ever new a body to his eyes, or else repeats the first enchantment's touch, the luminous rapture of her mystic breasts, and beautiful vibrant limbs, a living field of throbbing new discovery without end. A new beginning flowers in word and laugh. A new charm brings back the old extreme delight. He is lost in her. She is his heaven here. Truth smiled upon the gracious golden game. Out of her hushed eternal spaces leaned the great and boundless goddess, feigned to yield the sunlit sweetness of her secrecies. Incarnating her beauty in his clasp, she gave for a brief kiss her immortal lips and drew to her bosom one glorified mortal head. She made earth her home, for whom heaven was too small.
Thank you. So we see here a little bit more of this play between the soul and nature. Also, I think maybe the philosophical terms more appropriate is Ishvara Shakti, the Lord and the Divine Mother, and their play here in all of the manifestation is the meaning of it, the enjoyment of that play. He gives himself to her that she may manifest all his possibilities in nature. She lends herself to him that he may enjoy, that he may possess her forces, her beauty, her delight.
He keeps calling it his play and his game.
Mm.
So somehow it seems like all philosophy and religion and art and culture and these things are embedded somehow with this game.
Mm.
But the thing is, the realization of the game, that it is divine, that it is still, how do we say it, a means for realization.
Mm.
So how to balance out that thinking?
Mm.
Because he's not putting it down.
Right.
There's the descent, but then there's also the ascent. So I don't know how,
Yeah, it's a gradual ascent, right, through all of time. So along that long curve of ascent, there is all this enjoyment to be had.
So the 14 billion years of evolution is the play.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
No, I'm saying the lyrical evolution is only what man knows in translation.
Oh.
It's always long and man has said before it be long and long and before even starting to go out to life. It's still something.
There may have been other pralayas or other stages before. That could be. But it's truth smiled upon the gracious golden game. The soul has within it all these possibilities. It has all power, all knowledge. So it can just contain those and hold them within itself, or it can put those out and display them over the course of all time. And that putting out into play is nature, is the Divine Mother. She expresses all what's inherent, what's there as potential or possibility within the divine being. She expresses it, puts it into form. And then he can stand back and enjoy it from afar, or he can enter into it and enjoy it from within all his little individual creations as their soul. Just to hold it all within and never express, it would be kind of a wasted opportunity.
I think also the Supreme Mind is ever learning. Whenever she incarnates, she learns something. Support the children to be open to learning.
There's always more to discover. She's endless.
Heaven was too small. Because we needed the earth.
Maybe there's an interesting possibility there. I always took it like, well, the earth is smaller, and she consented to come into the earth where it's very limited, where even heaven was too great or was too small for her. But you're right, maybe those possibilities are even greater here on earth. Nitya, would you continue? In a human breast. No.
In a human breast, her occult presence lived. He carved from his own self his figure of her. She shaped her body to a mind's embrace. Into thought's narrow limits she has come. Her greatness she has suffered to be pressed into the little cabin of the idea, the closed room of a lonely thinker's grasp. She has lowered her heights to the stature of our souls and dazzled our lids with her celestial gaze. Thus each is satisfied with his high gain and thinks himself beyond mortality blessed, a king of truth upon his separate throne. To her possessor in the field of time, a single splendor caught from her glory seems the one true light, her beauty's glowing whole.
Thank you. It's very marvelous how nature limits herself to our stature, to each of us, in a sense. She brings a ray of her beauty, of her delight into our lives, and we think, oh, this is so amazing. I've met this amazing person who is now a part of my life, or I enjoy this great beauty of nature around me. So whatever it is, or for the sage who has this great experience of divine bliss, and he's lost in it. But all of these experiences, at whatever level we are, it's just a small little ray from her light, from her possibilities. And she bends down for each soul to give some of that delight and pleasure, some of her light, some of her power to enjoy. She has lowered her heights to the stature of our souls and dazzled our lids with her celestial gaze. Thus each is satisfied with his high gain and thinks himself beyond mortality blessed. Margaret, would you continue?
But thought nor word can seize eternal truth. The whole world lives in a lonely ray of her sun. In our thinking's close and narrow lamp-lit house, the vanity of our shut mortal mind dreams that the chains of her thought have made her ours. But only we play with our own brilliant bonds. Tying her down, it is ourselves we tie. In our hypnosis by one luminous point, we see not what small figure of her we hold. We feel not her inspiring boundlessness. We share not her immortal liberty.
Thank you. Let's pause. The whole world lives in a lonely ray of her sun. We see how vast this nature, this divine Shakti is. Okay, but he's still referring to her. Yeah. Well, there's higher nature, lower nature, but it's all nature, no? Well, the first line, thought nor word can seize eternal truth. Then the whole world lives in a lonely ray of her sun. Yeah, okay, maybe true.
I'm saying from the beginning, before the previous page, 1874. So this was the play of the bright gods of thought, attracting into time the timeless light, imprisoning eternity in the hour. This they have planned to snare the truth of truth. They have already met the concept of grace and keep her captive to the truth of truth. To the truth of joy, he the thought, and she the truth. And from where is always the truth that is being compressed to the level of mind, so small that it becomes very numbing.
Okay.
Goddess of truth. And again, yes, goddess is the truth.
Maybe.
It's not the principle, it's the divine mother.
It's the Divine Mother. Okay. Ultimately, it's the Divine Mother. Okay.
This truth and the others also. It should be nature, and it should be divine mother, and it should be divine. No, I understand that, but I was just saying in this realm, it is not the nature as well as it's not the glory. It's the goddess, it's the truth, it's the knowledge, it's the light, which she in this realm brings.
But she limits it into these small forms, which become nature, right? For us, it becomes nature. It becomes our idea. It becomes our, delight that we experience in life. Yeah. But she comes into that, limits herself into our something we can seize. Okay. So we'll just finish up at this last passage.
Thus,
correct.
Thus is it even with the seer and sage, for still the human limits the divine. Out of our thoughts we must leap up to sight, breathe her divine illuminated air, her simple vast supremacy confess, dare to surrender to her absolute. Then the unmanifest reflects his form in the still mind as in a living glass. The timeless ray descends into our hearts as we are wrapped into eternity. For truth is wider, greater than her forms. 1,000 icons they have made of her, and find her in the idols they adore. But she remains herself and infinite.
Thank you. So ultimately, the soul has to surrender. to her. Truth, whoever it may be, the divine. Her simple, vast supremacy confess. Dare to surrender to her absolute. Because all our means are hers. She gives the energy. She gives the inspiration. Everything comes from her. So we have to surrender. Then the unmanifest reflects his form in the still mind as in a living glass. It's kind of paradoxical line. Then the unmanifest reflects his form in the still mind as in a living glass.
What do you make of that living glass?
Well, that it's
That mirror?
no, it's
Because it's reflecting, but you can't reflect the unmanifest because it's unmanifest.
well, that's why it's.
Yeah.
But the being, the Purusha or the Ishvara, whatever it is, that soul within is a living being, is living. And it's just conscious being. It's just consciousness, awareness. And then in its awareness, then, when it's just silent, then it looks and sees all of her play reflected. Something like that. So he's a living being, and he's actually master of the whole thing. He's the Ishvara, the Lord of nature, and she's only carrying out, manifesting for him at his sanction, at his approval, for his delight. Yeah, they're one ultimately.
Is that also that at this level, is the woman taking on forms and names and all this ending, that the way that one after the other can appear, but in the balance, in the
So we limit her into these different forms, into these goddesses, into the Shakti. We give her names and terms. Oh, no, it's truth. No, it's Shakti. No, it's the absolute. But we try to snare her into our words and forms. But she remains herself beyond all of that. Say again. Her immortal liberty. Oh, there it is. We share not her immortal liberty. because we limit her. And these gods do this work for us too, right? These beings of this realm, they are limiting her, putting her into these forms that we can perhaps seize her in our intuitions.
But don't we always have to understand that's all right too?
It's all part of the game. Okay, we stop there for today.
sublimer and more daring soar to the wide summit of the triple stairs. Bare steps climbed up like glowing rocks of gold, burning their way to pure absolute sky.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.